Barry Patterson here with the Life Affirming Niche blog. Today we're interviewing Adam Bernholz of GreenWizard. Adam is the founder of the company. Thanks for taking time today, Adam.
Thanks for coming in, Barry.
Yep, it's you've been a successful entrepreneur, really a serial entrepreneur in a way. And in the past, what gave you the impetus to start GreenWizard?
Well, growing up in North Carolina, I was always a big outdoors guy. I loved to fish and got into scuba diving and paid my way partially through college and worked a bit after college down at Club Med as a scuba instructor. And I became more increasingly passionate about the ramifications of our society on the environment. I began to realize the profound effects, even in the post-industrial age, of what our society was doing to the environment, whether it's the bleaching of the reefs and the oceans caused by the heating sea levels, or just the building out of just pristine environments, and had an increasing focus on the environment. And at the same time, I was a former venture capitalist and liked to start and grow companies. And I live out on a little island one gets to by boat, and it's a beautiful little spot and environmentally pristine spot. And out there I was beginning to look at building myself a net zero home, a home that puts as much energy into the grid as it takes out. Okay. And in the process of beginning to evaluate various renewable energy options and how to build the most energy efficient house, I became increasingly intrigued with this whole idea of green building and also incorporating products that have healthy components in them, as well as sustainable components, preserving finite resources for future generations. And that's really the tenets of green and LEED building. So as I began to look at building this house for myself, I realized from a venture capital entrepreneurial perspective that there was a profound need in the market to have a platform to help individuals or architects, engineers, and contractors drill down on the most appropriate products based on those specific environmental attributes, be they healthy, sustainable, or efficient. Right. And thus, that was the genesis of GreenWizard.
Okay, when you were going about building your house, were you having a hard time finding these products?
That's right. I was having a hard time myself, and as I began to get intrigued with this idea that ultimately became the company, I went to friends in the industry, various architects, and I said, how do you find your windows, your chipboard, or your paint that's low VOC and regionally sourced and has some recycled components in it or bio-based components? Right. And they said, literally, you see that file cabinet, that's our cabinet for window manufacturers. And this was even in 2005, 15, 20 years after the advent of the internet, and realized that the whole problem with evaluating and sourcing these materials was due to lack of a centralized information source repository. And given where cloud computing is today and the ability to put this collective wisdom all in one spot, I realized it would be an ideal opportunity for what is now GreenWizard to be born.
Oh, fantastic. So how long did it take you from, okay, here's the idea as you're going through your house, to putting together the first business plan and moving forward from?
Right. It was probably about a good year and a half of just meeting with folks, reading, getting myself educated in the space. It touches on a lot of spaces, construction industry, LEED in the USGBC, green building products, the supply chain. And so
that's a lot of work.
A little bit of work, but it was worthwhile. Did my research, and after about a year and a half, I felt prepared to write the first patents. Get those filed, get the business plan together, began to recruit our management team, national thought leaders, board of advisors, and began shopping the idea in the investment community to raise the funds that we subsequently raised to get the company going.
Okay, and the patents, those were software patents?
Software patents, business method patents, exactly.
Fantastic. Online it says GreenWizard is the largest collection of green building product data for intelligent material selection. Could you go into the intelligent material selection? Is that like you're saying that guy had the filing cabinet with this is all windows?
That's
so
right.
You help people?
That's right. So we now have over 100,000 building products in our system. We've got $3 billion worth of projects on one side looking for their materials, and we have over 100,000 building products in the system. And we're the first company to ever break the data associated with an individual building product down into discrete character fields. So we can have, say, the VOC content, urea formaldehyde content, regional content, recycled content, bio-based content, reused content, all of these things that are important to those that desire to build a green building. And the way that LEED, the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, the standard promulgated by the US GBC, US Green Building Council, the way that standard works is it encourages products that have multiple sustainable attributes inherent in the product. So by breaking each product down into discrete character fields, searchable fields, we're able to, for an individual user of our system, pull back a result set sorted and hierarched by those products that have the most sustainable attributes within any one product. And a user can therefore make their decisions from therefore. They can go dark green, medium green, or light green, all depending on what they desire and, of course, on the price points of the products. So we try to put some intelligence behind building material selection. The way I like to phrase it is, and I think it's very true, is 5, 10, 15 years ago, building products by and large were commodity products, purchased solely on price. By a contractor, subcontractor. And now with the advent of USGBC and LEED, they're highly differentiated products. And so we've built out GreenWizard, and it provides a platform for those manufacturers of those products to, on an even playing field, without brand equity and a lot of these big marketing budgets, just get their product information out to the greater community so they can be found and evaluated.
Okay, so that leads into another question about, the marketing budgets are put aside, so this really allows more players and smaller players into the marketplace.
That's right. We often call ourselves Switzerland. We're agnostic. Everyone can come in. Every manufacturer gets to put their building product data in our system for free. And therefore, those smaller guys say, if they have a darker green product with demonstrable sustainable attributes, by the very nature of their product and its attributes, it will appear relatively high in our search results. And so I think it democratizes the marketplace to some degree in that regard.
Oh, that's fantastic. And what about from a, with the LEED requirements, from a geographical perspective and sourcing? So the companies can actually search from that perspective as well? Or?
Sure. About 20% of the energy that goes into the manufacture of a building product is called embodied energy, and it's the energy associated with the transportation from the manufacturing facility to the job site. And therefore USGBC and LEED encourages these so-called regionally sourced materials that are not only manufactured within 500 miles, but the raw ingredients are extracted and harvested from the earth within 500 miles. And so our database, as we collect the information from the manufacturer, we actually pull by percentage weight of the product locations of extraction, harvest, and manufacture. And so we can present out a prorated amount of regional material within each product based on the zip code of where the product will go into the project.
That's amazing.
It's needed by the marketplace, and we've delivered that now.
Measuring the embodied energy, that's something wow, that's fantastic.
Well, ultimately it all goes into this idea of carbon footprinting or some sort of life cycle assessment, life cycle analysis of what are the cradle to grave impacts of a product in terms of its impact on energy and any number of areas. And the LEED rules out of the gate, manufacturers don't have an LCA analysis available for their products. So LEED encourages looking at things as regionality and recycled content and energy efficiency associated with the products. Ultimately, in 20 years, in my opinion, a lot of that will move over to an LCA methodology or a carbon footprint methodology, both the carbon used to manufacture the product and then the carbon used throughout the life cycle of that product and then the disposal of that product. That end-to-end, beginning-to-end total amount of energy will become one of the essentially food ingredient labels that go with that product, just like we have with the FDA with traditional food labeling.
Oh, fantastic. Well, you've started this company and grown it in what people are calling the Great Recession of our time. That had to be challenging. What were some of the obstacles, in raising money? You're getting patents and you're growing a substantial company here. What were some of the obstacles, both financial and otherwise, that you
right?
overcame?
I mean, it's been the best of the worst of times and the best of times, really, to start a company. In terms of raising funds, equity, we've done debt financing and equity financing to date. I ended up on Sand Hill Road out in Palo Alto, out in the Bay Area outside of San Francisco, where about 50% of the venture capital in the country is. Right. The very week in October of 2008, when the entire world was collapsing and the Dow went down, 20% roughly in that week, and the venture capital industry retrenched, to say the least. And right. It became very difficult to raise. We were looking for a very large 7-digit, almost 8-digit raise, and we pulled that back substantially just because market conditions dictated such. Right. And we went out to a smaller group of investors, or smaller investors really, called angel investors, mm-hmm. and we were able to secure initial financing of just a few $100,000 back in 2009, and then followed it up with a $1 million plus round in March of 2010. Very difficult and trying times to raise money, absolutely. Ultimately, you have to, in these trying times, have to give up more of the company than one would have to give up in better times, so-called dilution. At the same time, from a competitive point of view, very few all the other startups in a similar position were also having difficult times. Mm-hmm. So it cuts your competition down quite a bit. And the big, the so-called big boys, the big multinationals that may roll out a software segment trying to do something similar to what we were doing, had a natural hesitancy to do that. They're laying off people.
Constrain their innovation budget.
That's right. Their R&D was significantly reduced. So I think we were fortunate in that regard. Ultimately, we'll see how it plays out, but it is what it is. But it seems like the forces are working together to move us forward.
Well, that's fantastic. What about on there were probably some advantages for, like, you had to tighten your belt, so you had to focus on and build, because you built all the software from the ground up. Because I remember we had a conversation a couple of years ago where you weren't interested in buying software from people. You were building it from the ground up.
That's right.
So you had to get a tight team together and really focus on what you were building then.
That's right. And let it be clear, I've built nothing. I've been very fortunate and pulled together just a fantastic team here. And my partner, Jerry Lepore, who's formerly with Benefit Focus, has just a great core team of developers that he works with. Mm-hmm. And we were able to bring that team aboard at GreenWizard. And then from scratch, in less than a year, we've developed a pretty remarkable workflow platform, cloud-based workflow platform for these green building projects. And yes, absolutely, from scratch.
Oh, fantastic. We talked a little bit before we started the camera about the triple bottom line and those aspects of it. Any thoughts on how, I guess just general big picture thoughts on, like, when I was thinking about this, about one of the benefits potentially of GreenWizard is that, you could give, shine a light on new innovations that might not been able, somebody that might not have been able to be seen before, now they can be made, available in your marketplace.
That's right. I mean, as I mentioned a moment ago, it helps democratize the marketplace. Right. We're not advertising based. All manufacturers get to come into our platform for free. Their products are sorted and hierarched based on their multiple sustainable attributes. Mm-hmm. The more regional materials, recycled, bio-based, healthy materials they have, the better they appear. So it gives a level playing field. We like to say we're agnostic when it comes to the products. We're Switzerland. Put your products in, and those with larger numbers of sustainable or green attributes will rise to the top.
Where do you see it going over the next couple of years?
We just continue to expand it. We're really concentrating here in the domestic U.S. We have some potential joint venture partners overseas, but the domestic industry here, on the commercial side, is already a $100 billion industry. That's our real core focus, and it's such a big sandbox that, frankly, for the next few years, that'll be our core focus. We've moved into residential, and we'll increasingly move into residential as that market responds. The commercial market, though, is now increasingly dominated by the LEED standard. Every federal building, 3/4 of the state buildings must be built to this standard. Right. Increasing numbers of corporations are coming aboard and mandating that their buildings are built to LEED. So domestic U.S. commercial emphasis with a growing residential added emphasis.
So on the residential, as that grows, you'll probably grow along with the lead residential, the lead for residential, how it grows in that.
That's right. That's right. And over the next few years, we'll probably incorporate some of the other more watered down standards. Say the NAHB has a residential green building standard.
Right.
My preference would be for everyone to build a net zero home or a net zero building and utilize no energy and utilize all very healthy products and all sustainable products. Right. The reality of the world is not everybody's going to do that, and so we want to provide a tool to gently transform the market and gently move the market forward. And as awareness increases, we want to foster that ability for the market to gain the wisdom of what is out there, and we think that will help transform the market.
Oh, it will help a lot.